We have decided to increase the speed of our implementation of different investments that will help us to reach a new level in our relations, and also to start of our joint investment fund, which will have $1 billion. And in energy, we have different kind of projects which have strategic importance for both of the sides. I want to remind that 50% of gas consumption of Turkey is being provided by Russia. We also continue our joint work on the construction of the new gas pipeline, Turkish Stream, and this project will have 2 lines going through Black Sea, and it will have a potential of transferring 15.7 billion cubic meters of natural gas. One line will go to Turkey directly, and the other one will be for Europe. It will help to attain the energy security. We have also discussed another huge project, which is also joint. This project is Akkuyu nuclear power plant, and our joint investment will reach 22 billion of US dollars. We have talked about also humanitarian sphere, and in 2019 we will have a joint culture and tourism year, and we will organize different events which will be practically helpful in this area. 1/3 of Russian tourists going abroad have chosen Turkey for the May holidays. It's very important to provide them with security in Turkey. Russian governmental agencies are ready to provide support and information to Turkish intelligence agencies. While exchanging our ideas on global and regional agenda, we have talked about fighting against international terrorism. We have agreed upon our cooperation among the ministries of defense, and also some interdepartmental consultations will be conducted on this issue, on the issue of terrorism. We think that Syrian conflict can be only resolved by diplomatic ways. I want to also underline that active role of Russia, Iran and Turkey, not only the military actions have been stopped, but also we could reach a point where they could start negotiations in Astana. In Astana, we are now starting the 4th round of consultations. We have also discussed to have 25th summit of Black Sea economic cooperation, which will be in May in Istanbul. This event will be regional, and it is very important for us, and of course Russia will be presented there. At the end, I want to express my gratitude to Mr. President. I want to thank all our Turkish friends and colleagues for their constructive dialogue, and I'm sure that today's discussion will help us to develop our relations, and we will go in this direction afterwards. Thank you for your attention.
My esteemed friend, distinguished ministers and members of the press, I salute you with the most heartfelt feelings and respect. In the past 2 months, this has been my second visit to the Russian Federation. First of all, I would like to thank our Russian interlocutors for their hospitality to myself and our delegation. Since August 2016, this is the 5th time that we met with Mr. Putin, and our frequent phone calls also continue. Thanks to all of these talks and dialogues, our political relations have gained the desired impetus. And when it comes to furthering our relations, there is a strong will on both parts. And it is without a doubt that it is the conscientious approach shown by both countries' leaderships in the difficult times. Today we discuss primarily economic and trade issues, and also we've carried out consultations on steps to be taken. The High-Level Cooperation Council's 6th meeting will serve as has served as an occasion for a meeting in Moscow on March 10th, and in today's meeting we've had a chance to revise the decisions and steps taken. Our economic advisors in Moscow and Ankara meet frequently in order to remove the obstacles before our trade and economic relations. We are exerting great efforts. I do believe that in the coming days we will start reaping the fruits of all these efforts. The Turkish Flow and Akkuyu nuclear power plant cooperation is being carried out with sensitivity in its own medium. Esteemed members of the press, during these two talks with Mr. Putin, we primarily discussed the crisis in Syria and also the issues in the region. There's a Russian idiom that I quite like. Whoever has an ache, that's what they will talk about. Yes, and for our countries, Syria has been a bleeding wound for 6 years. Whilst children play joyfully on the streets in other parts of the world, enjoying the spring, the green and the sun, Syrian children are face to face with death every day, which is our common ache. Having 900 we are a country that has 911 kilometers of border with Syria, and we're cut from the same cloth. How could we remain insensitive or indifferent to the cries of children right next to us? Children, women and the elderly being massacred with chemical and conventional weapons. How can we turn a blind eye to that? And right now 3 million people fleeing from all this pain are fighting to sustain their lives on our lands. As long as these pains and these aches persist, of course we will continue to talk about Syria. We will continue to meet and talk about Syria. We will try to resolve the issue without turning a blind eye to the suffering of those poor people. And my friend Putin sincerely wishes to end this tragedy. He has shown, I have believed and I believe that he will show great effort in establishing a ceasefire regime. The ceasefire, or as it is now called, the non-conflict political resolution, in order for it to be successful under the leadership of Turkey, Russia and Iran, this constitutes an important window of opportunity, which we should not miss. As the guarantors, when it comes to fulfilling our obligations, we must be very sensitive in our conduct. Thanks to the Astana talks, we are trying to reach ceasefire as soon as possible, but some circles are spending all their energy to sabotage this process, to destroy the greening sprouts of hope. We know fully well what they do to these ends. The most clear examples of this is the chemical attack that took place in Hanshehun. No one can or should get away with such an attack. Agreed with Mr. Putin how important it is for those responsible for these attacks to be brought to justice. Any attack aimed at breaching the ceasefire will not only worsen the situation on the field, but it also impedes the efforts of the guarantor countries. We will continue our work on all these issues in cooperation and coordination with Russia. The resolution of the crisis in Syria, of course, will be done through a political process. For us, The utmost priority is to stop the bloodshed in Turkey and to preserve the territorial integrity and political unity of Syria. As long as Syria is a stage for tutelage wars, terrorist organizations will continue to gain ground. So combating all the terrorist organizations in Syria for Syria's future, for the perpetuity of the Syrian people, and for peace in the world is, in our opinion, necessary. We have not discriminated amongst terrorist organizations up to now. YPG, Daesh, Al-Qaeda are all the same to us. There is no difference between them. They all feed on blood and chaos and tears. They are vampires. Eradicating terrorist organizations is all of our common responsibility. Across our southern border, what threatens our national unity, our territorial integrity and our safety, we cannot allow such a hostile structure to take place or take form. As it has been up to now, we will continue to take all necessary measures to protect the lives of our citizens. Availing myself of this opportunity, I would like to extend my condolences for the Russian citizens who lost their lives in the terrorist attack in April. These attacks show that terror knows no boundaries, no law, or no borders. As I've always said, with the acts carried out in Moscow or those in Brussels, Kabul, Paris or Istanbul, there's no difference between any of these terrorist acts. Whatever the name, the claim or ideology, terrorist organizations are the common enemy of humanity. I'd like to let it be known that we are with our Russian friends when it comes to counterterrorism. Also, I would like to once again say get well soon for the sailors who had an accident on the Black Sea. As soon as we heard of the accident, we've mobilized all our means, and it has been our greatest consolation that no lives were lost. And I would like to thank my esteemed friend Mr. Putin for his kind invitation, and I'd like to invite him and tell him what a great pleasure it will be to host him on May 22nd for the 25th Black Sea Economic Cooperation meeting in Istanbul. I hope that our consultation and all the decisions we've taken will be auspicious for the region and all of humanity. Thank you.
Now we offer to ask 4 questions to the presidents, 2 questions to each president. And first we have to start with our guests. TRT, please.
My question will be for both leaders. The resolution of the Syrian crisis. Did you talk about establishing safe zones, or have you reached an agreement on this issue? Well, it's actually a new initiative now. As you know, from the very outset, I've used the words safe zone everywhere. I'm using it today, and I will continue to use it. That, for the most part, is the area between Raja and southwards, about an area of about 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers squared. But now, the non-conflict zone, which is the Idlib region. Of course, this region hosts people fleeing from Aleppo right now, and Idlib, one of the largest settlement areas of the region. Unfortunately, from time to time, there are some serious issues there as well. But now, with a green line there, a non-conflict zone has been declared. I do wish for that non-conflict zone to be kept up. And we've also negotiated it with Mr. President on a map today, and this is one of the important topics in Astana as well. And with positive decisions coming out from Astana, attaching this non-conflict to a decision will also pave the way for an important step to be taken in Syria.
And I think that Syrian crisis can only be solved by political ways. But to develop this political process, we have to acquire ceasefire. Russia, Turkey, Iran, as countries which have been involved in this process, in this practice of ceasefire, always thought about how to make this process, how to make this ceasefire regime permanent. One of the methods is creation safe zones or de-escalation zones, as Mr. President has stated just now. We have heard also that US President has been talking about de-escalation zones. Yesterday, we had a telephone call with Mr. Trump, and we have discussed this issue, and as far as I understood, US administration supports this idea. And Russia has conducted some preliminary consultations with Damascus and Tehran. And we understood that we should create mechanisms which will guarantee the prevention of bloodshed and will create all conditions for political solution. We have same position with Mr. President. We both think that the conflict is being discussed in Astana today, and a final decision will be made by them, because they have to decide what will be the destiny of their country. We, as guarantors of this process, Turkey, Iran and Russia, we will do everything so that these mechanisms could be developed and will be more effective, and we support this.